Speaking of old 90s games and also LeBron James, I got to check out a new game from Digital Extremes, which is a company best known for doing some of those old school like legacy collections. They did the Mega Man Legacy Collection. They did the Disney really, really hard platformer games. They also did one of their handful of original games was the Space Jam: A New Legacy, the game, which came out back in 2021 alongside the LeBron James movie that most people forgot about. Yeah, I did it. Anyway,
wait to see how you did that. That was masterful,
wow.
Max.
Thread the needle.
That is why you're the host, my friend.
So they have a brand new original game, which is called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. And looking at it, it's very easy to think that this is a game that maybe came out on the GBA or something, somewhere in the past, because it's a very awesome retro styled game. And it is basically, in a nutshell, it's Shredder's Revenge, but with Power Rangers, but they do enough interesting little things to make it more than just a straightforward palette swap. And the kind of operative thing in the title is the rewind element, where they do a really fun kind of fan fiction-y mashup approach to storytelling, where the game starts out and it's present there, it's 2023 or whatever, and Robo Rita, who's like basically like cyborg Frieza in the future, she's just like cyborg Rita Repulsa, and she's like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked, we got to go back in time, and I'm gonna beat up the Power Rangers when they're teenagers. And so she goes back in time and basically does a sort of do-over of the original Power Rangers season. So like the I think the first episode is called like Day of the Dumpster, and I think it's like it's called like Yesterday of the Dumpster is the level name. So it's taking like familiar the Power Rangers plots and stuff. I don't have a super good memory for the shows, but anybody who's like, has more of a zeroed in nostalgia for that is probably going to find a lot of really cool stuff to love here. But yeah, it's basically, it's your standard co-op beat 'em up. Everyone runs through the level, punches a bunch of stuff, kicks some trash cans, eats some food they find in the trash cans, fights a boss, does that kind of stuff. But the way it differs itself is it has these really cool sort of like Mode 7, like Sega Superscaler style levels, where it shakes up the side scroller format and instead has like when you're in the Megazord, it's basically Punch Out, or while you're in the Dinozords, it feels kind of like Star Fox, like you're just racing sort of over the shoulder third person
on a rail.
Yeah, just blasting through a canyon, just zapping a bunch of vaguely polygonal quasi 3D looking monsters and stuff. And it's a really fun way of kind of shaking things up. The rewind element is really neat, where basically Robo Rita is doing something with like time crystals. It's a Power Rangers plot. I'm not digging too deep into like the specific lore here, but there are these big green crystals that'll show up periodically, and if you don't blow them up quick enough, it causes the entire it causes the game to rewind. Like we were talking about, a rewind button on a PlayStation controller, being used to let you just rewind gameplay, and this basically takes that tech that's become almost standard in these repackaged like legacy collections, like rare replay type of stuff, and kind of gamified it in a really neat way, where it feels like, so if you're watching the video, here's one of these green crystals. It's a time disruptor. And if you don't promptly destroy it, it'll just explode. And it does this really cool like CRT distortion effect where it kind of looks like your Sega Genesis broke, and the gameplay goes back like 30 seconds and you have to do the whole thing all over again. And it's a really neat little approach there. This is just it. I feel like anybody who has, even the slightest fondness for Power Rangers and had a good time with Shredder's Revenge, I think this could be really killer.
This looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'm completely
I watched
sold
your
on
preview
this.
last night. It was really well done.
I mean, I went into it could go, it could go either way, and it's again still possible that it's busted at launch or something. You never know how these things are going to go. But I played like basically the first two levels, and it was a really good time. I played with Tim Geddes from Kind of Funny, and we were both just like turning into 7-year-olds on the couch, just getting like super excited whenever something stupid and colorful and explosive happened on screen. It's just got like it really taps into that like, hey, you remember Power Rangers? Remember like playing beat 'em ups as a kid? Like here you go, have fun with this. And it's just, I don't know, it feels very like kind of cleverly implemented. I feel like these games frequently there's like pixel art purists are like, there's a certain level of like, it has to look a certain way. And they definitely do. There's really good pixel art in the beat 'em up stuff. They don't do anything like, they don't do that like faux, like faux sprite stuff where it's like what Dead Cells does. But then when you get into the other levels, it does a little bit of that in a totally, I would say, like tolerable way. Like there's a little cutscene when when the Megazord is forming, and it looks like something you would see as like a pre-rendered 3D thing in an arcade game. The whole thing is just really charming, and I'm hoping it meets expectations. But
when is this out?
It looks amazing. I love the fact that they're even tying it into the anniversary episode that we got. Was it last year or was it this year? The Netflix special, because they have Robo Rita. She's going back in time, and she's just trying to change the continuity. I love that they're tying it into something that we just recently got, either earlier this year or last year.
Yeah, was that the one that had like the original Rangers in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once and Always. Yeah. It had Billy and Zach, I believe. Yeah. And it had Robo Rita. So she was like, "Hey, I'm a robot now. I'm going to kill you."
It works.
Yeah. Actual line from the movie.
Yeah. They said during the demo that was the project that kind of opened the door for this guy going to tell the story. But yeah, I did like a boss fight with Goldar, and they do a really clever thing where, again, it's a co-op game. And when everyone's playing as a ranger and you're running around the street kicking stuff, easy enough to figure out. Everyone plays as their own ranger, right? And then when you're controlling a separate Dinozord, easy enough, totally straightforward. How do 5 people drive one robot? Like that's always been a big problem in Power Rangers. Is like who's piloting the thing? And
they all controlled one portion, right? Like one controlled the right.
I mean, that was the lore as I understood it. Is everybody controlled one portion. So, minus Kimberly, who just had like the shield plate, the chest plate. This is like, well, that's not really anything.
Yeah, I feel like if they gamified that, it would just be QWOP. So I'm glad they didn't. But
I kind of would have liked that.
Instead, they pretty much make it so it's like sort of like in-game passing the controller co-op, where one person drives the Megazord for a second, and you basically, if you deal enough damage to charge up one portion of the power sword, then you pass the next person takes over. Or if Goldar clocks you and you take damage, then the next person's turn is up. And so it does this kind of just very basic rotation, which I could see it being tedious if you're playing with a full roster. Especially if you're playing online and you're just like, you just want to beat the boss and get on with your day, and you just keep watching people screw up. But if you're playing with friends on the couch, it's really funny. Like I kept just like screwing up, and like at one point I forgot which ranger I was. Like I wasn't paying attention, and I just got like Goldar just came up and just like punched us in the face, and Tim was like, "Yo, dude, that was you." And I was like, "Oh, sorry." But then like when we kind of got the hang of it, we're all like, going up there just wailing on them. Like everyone started cheering each other on, and there's a really neat sense of camaraderie that comes with that. You don't really see as much with when everyone's just beating up putty patrollers on the street. Like there's not really any. You're kind of just paying attention to yourself. Like maybe doing some team up co-op type moves or whatever. But yeah, so it's neat. That is out on December 10th. That's going to be on basically everything. And yeah, I'm really, I don't know. I'm excited about that. I feel like it could be a really fun kind of holiday family game for theoretically all ages.
I'm all over that. That looks that's so awesome.
Yeah. I'm so hyped for that one.
Yeah.
Love me some Shredder's Revenge and love me some Power Rangers. So this just feels right.
This like 90s beat 'em up renaissance kicks ass. Like it is so cool that we got that Shredder's Revenge, Streets of Rage 4 a couple years back. They just put the Double Dragon guys, in River City Girls. Like they're making another Double Dragon too, right? Like it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see like more licensed games like this. I want to see stuff just actually take this approach. I would love to see, I don't know, like maybe Marvel makes a game like this. Maybe they, give us a...
Love to see
an
X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men, like give me that X-Men arcade. Beat up next.
God, how about they remake that Punisher arcade game? How about that?
Is that the one you shot a bunch of dudes?
They put that in. They put out that. Fury, It was like a recent Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Did you guys see that? And they just like slid that one in there, which makes no sense. It's like they're just like, hey, it's the Punisher. Look,
Brad,
our arcade.
I wasn't complaining. I was super happy. It was hella years since I played that, so I wasn't complaining at all. I was
me neither.
But yeah, you're right. They kind of slipped it in there. It's like there was no mention.
No, and it's not a fighting game. It's just about a guy that shoots people by himself.
I mean, it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. Because I think they also had Final Fight in one of them as well, where you had like Mike Haggard and somebody, I forget the other character you play as when you play co-op. But
it reminds me of what Konami was doing with those Castlevania collections, where they're just like, it's all the Game Boy Advance ones, and then some other random thing that we found. They're like, hey,
Dracula's whatever.
Dracula's coffin from for like a canceled, dance machine in Japan from 25 years ago. Sure,
take it. Don't think it was that obscure, but yes,
I love that.
Get it?
Yeah, Digital Eclipse has also been doing they've been doing this kind of hybrid collection thing. They just did Tetris Forever. Brian, have you been playing that?
Yes, I am. It's really, really cool. Did anyone else check this out?
Not yet.
I played a little bit at the event just because they had it turned on, and I was like, it's like competitive.
So it's they did this with the Atari, which I was like, that was before my time. But like Tetris, I grew up playing Tetris. A lot of us did. And the Tetris Forever is basically like an interactive museum / documentary. It's basically a timeline of like all the events of like how Tetris was created and who made it, the story of how it came to Americas, how it came to the Game Boy and the Nintendo and everything else, all the different companies fighting over it. But the interesting part is that every now and then on the timeline, it sort of pauses and goes like, and this was the version of the Tetris that they were trying to sell at the time, and you can just play it. It's just the full version of that. So there's like, I think like 8 or 10 different Tetris games in there. And they all evolve over time. And some of them are really dumb, like Hatris, which is just this. I didn't know about this, but me and my kid were playing it. And we were just like dying laughing because it's just like these crappy hats just falling from the sky. And you have to just organize them in different stacks. But yeah, like it tells you like what they were thinking at the time. And it has like interviews with, Alexei Pajitnov. And he's like, I really liked hats. And so we tried the hat thing. It wasn't really a big hit. But, I like it. And so it goes on to the next thing. And so, yeah, there's just like conceptual art, promotional art materials, old commercials. Like it's just absurd amount of material that they found and new video footage that they shot, all compiled together in one package. So if you're even remotely interested in the creative process or the business behind that franchise, or just want to play some of the oddities that came from it all in one place, it's worth checking out. I feel like they have like these guys really know what they're doing with this new format. I'm excited to see them do more.
I love this interactive documentary approach. They did one it was called Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story, which is about this. Is one of those he's a British developer. I think he made a lot of stuff for like the ZX Spectrum, and it just was a completely different timeline from my exposure to gaming. But yeah, he was making games for like 40 years, and they made a documentary about him that has all of his games in it, which is a really cool thing.
I got into his stuff on the Xbox 360 for the first time because he'd started making a bunch of Xbox Live Arcade games, and I was like, oh, this dude is making like modern, completely glitched out, psychedelic, retro 80s arcade games, but he's selling them on the Xbox 360 for a couple of bucks. And I was like, this guy's insane. What's his deal? And it's like, oh, he's a crazy person who makes weird retro arcade games.
Support cool people like that. So the Tetris Forever also has a multiplayer mode that we were messing with, which is really fun, where it's up to 4 players, and it's your typical sort of Tetris thing where you make a line and it puts blocks in the other person's screen or whatever. But it has this added element, which is oddly enough kind of similar to the whole Rita's Rewind thing, where these weird blocks will show up, and if you get rid of a line with this block in it, it'll cause the other person's screen to go back to an earlier version of Tetris. And I didn't realize this.
It changes the aesthetic, like the art.
It's not just the aesthetic; it's the mechanics, which I didn't realize were so different between versions.
Oh yeah,
and so like it'll kick you to like the original Tetris, where I forget
you can't hold blocks. You can't
hold blocks.
You don't get visibility on your next piece.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe that's always been there. I can't remember. I think visibility.
Well, it's a pain in the ass regardless, because the one thing, and you get used to using the controls a certain way, where it's like, you tap up and it does the instant drop. But that didn't exist there. And then if you double tap down, it does the instant drop, as opposed to just like making something fall really fast. It's one of those things where you think you're doing really well, and then somebody throws you one of these, and suddenly you're playing a version of Tetris that doesn't feel right. Like the Tetris 2, which has like bombs in it. I think it's Tetris 2, or it's the Super Nintendo one, which I never played, and so it suddenly goes from like clearing lines Tetris style to like it's not even match 3. It's making a block of 4 to create a bomb that clears an area, and weird. That's what ended me a couple times, because I was just like trying to sort of just be like, I'm trying to make a square. That's what I've been trying to avoid doing this whole time. I hate those things. So it's really neat. And that's out now. I don't know. It's cool to see them doing stuff like this.